After back-to-back 6 and 7 seasons, will the Florida Gators sink or swim in 2023?
These are among the most unique fans in the world because they've won so much. They're not winning right now. How do they cope?
Big year 2 under Billy Napier and company. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's that time of year where there's a lot of fan bases out there that are excited for the upcoming season, and they've got a lot of hope for the next year coming up. But to me, when you look on the outside in, it seems like Florida Gator fans are not as excited like everybody else, but probably just nervous with a lot of anxiety. That's because the Florida Gators are coming off of back-to-back 6 and 7 seasons. There's really not a lot of people who think that the Florida Gators are going to have that much success this year. A lot of people believe the Florida Gators could go 5 and 7 and not go to a bowl game this year. And if that is the case, does Billy Napier even survive the season? In this video, we're going to talk about the Florida Gators heading into the 2023 season. Big shout out to Brayton for commenting, wanting a video on the Florida Gators. If you would like a video on a college football team or an NFL team, post it in the comments and you might get picked. Like this video and hit subscribe to join the team, join the fam. All right, so now back to the Florida Gators going into 2023. So if I'm being honest, I did not like the hire of Billy Napier at all. I'm not a Florida Gators fan, but from the outside, the hire of Billy Napier just seems so underwhelming. They basically ran out Dan Mullen out the door, even though he didn't have a good year in that last part. But then they bring in Billy Napier, and I know he might have had a decent record with the Raging Cajuns, but to me, just the resume, I mean, this is the Florida Gators we are talking about. A university that have been known to win multiple national champions, of course, under the Urban Meyer, your Tim Tebow days. They built a successful program that in the state of Florida should just recruit itself. And if we're being honest, the Florida Gators are just a shell of themselves right now. And they are really, to me, teetering on the brink of just getting forgotten. I mean, this is going to be a big year, and I think the Florida Gators got a long uphill to climb. Billy Napier needs something successful. I don't know if they kick him out for another 6-win season, but if it's below 6 wins and they don't even make a bowl game, can Billy Napier keep his job? And I mean, should he at that point? Yes, it's only 2 years, but man, in the world of the SEC and college football with NIL deals, can you really afford back-to-back 6 to 7 and 5 and 7, 5 and 8, whatever it is? Just devastating years for the Florida Gators. And because at this moment, you can really just lose track of your program and get behind the 8 ball real quick. Of course, with the East, you've got Georgia, you've got Tennessee back on the climb. South Carolina has a lot of buzz about themselves and really look like they've got the arrow pointing up. There's big predictions about the Kentucky Wildcats. And then, I mean, you've got Texas, you've got Oklahoma, and who the hell else knows is coming to the SEC. So Florida Gators do not have a lot of time to figure this out. They always need to be one of the teams at the top of the SEC East trying to fight for a chance to win the SEC championship. And it has just not been that way for quite some time. There was an anonymous SEC assistant coach that did not paint a great picture for the Florida Gators. He said this season coming up is going to test a lot of people's patience. He said head coach Billy Napier was never going to be Steve Spurrier, and he inherited probably the least talented overall roster in 20-some-odd years at Florida. There's a reason they ran off Dan Mullen, and it wasn't about his record. The lack of winning on those top guys in recruiting is starting to show up on the field. It could really be trial by fire for defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong with that schedule, because this is such a far cry from the level of defensive talent that they have had since Will Muschamp. You know, that's great and all that an assistant coach out there within the SEC sees that and has that sort of perspective, but I just don't think this fan base for the Florida Gators can be patient, and I don't think they necessarily should be patient. they've got to be able to figure it out. They've got to find a way to be relevant, and they got to find a way to at least get 7 to 8 wins. Anything less than that, I just think you're treading on water at that point. I mean, if you want to continue to hold yourself to a high standard that you are the University of the Florida Gators, then I don't know how many years of mediocrity you could have. When you look back to last year, Anthony Richardson, such huge talent, and they just could not seem to figure it out around him. And it sucks for Florida fans because, honestly, Anthony Richardson left 1 year too early as far as his development in the Florida Gators. While it's not the wrong decision for Anthony Richardson, I mean, he was still selected in the top 5 NFL draft picks. You go get your money, but he's not ready, and everybody else knows he's not ready. And what could he have done for the Florida Gators if he would have stayed 1 more year? But we'll never know, and now it turns into a quarterback battle that is really going to have a lot of eyes and focus on. Of course, there's a lot of needs and there's a lot of areas of concern for the Florida Gators, but if you can't get it done at the quarterback position in the SEC, you're really just swimming up the creek without a paddle at that point. And there's a major void there as far as who is going to take the snaps for the quarterback position for Florida. To me, it looks like it's really a 2-quarterback competition between Graham Mertz and Jack Miller. Graham Mertz is the transfer quarterback out of Wisconsin. He's likely the front runner to win the job in 2023 at the University of Wisconsin. He completed 460 out of 773, 59.5% completion percentage, passed for 5,405 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 26 interceptions. He does come in with a lot of experience, but he's not someone that's just going to overwhelm you with incredible arm talent and just make people around him better. But now with some better skill around him at the University of Florida, maybe there's something there that could be just waiting to kind of wake up. Miller, on the other hand, is a 4th-year quarterback who will be competing against Graham Mertz for the starting job. In 3 seasons as a collegiate quarterback, Miller has seen action in just 7 games, completing 20 out of 36 for 55%, 281 yards, and no touchdowns. So, I mean, if you're just being honest, it's probably leaning towards Mertz because he's just got the experience and he's got a bigger resume at this point. But neither one really knock your socks off. It's pretty clear that the recipe for the Florida Gators to have a successful season this year and maybe have a chance to knock off some big upsets, it's going to have to be played with a really good, strong defense that they've got to find a way to get much better than last year and find a way to continue to pound that rock. They've got a couple really good running backs that they're going to be able to do it as a committee with Montrell Johnson Jr. and Trevor Etienne. So they're just going to have to pound the rock, play action football, put a little bit less on the quarterback position, and grind some of these games out. And that can be very tough when you're talking about opponents like Tennessee, where they're just going to run up-tempo offense and not allow a team to slow it down. And then, of course, rushing attack against Georgia doesn't really go that good. This year, for 2023, it is very year for the Florida. I think they've got to find a way to get on top, get 7 to 8, maybe potentially 9 wins. Don't impossible, but they cannot continue to fail and go back and potentially only win 5 games. You are teetering on a chance of being forgotten and starting to head to the bottom of the SEC while everybody else rises above you. Florida Gators have to wake up and swim, or they will sink to the bottom. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. Until next time, stay humble, stay kind. Peace.